Have you ever been overwhelmed by a thought that feels foreign, uninvited, and deeply disturbing? Maybe you've stood on a balcony and suddenly imagined yourself jumping off, or you've held a baby and felt a pang of fear that you might hurt them. These thoughts are intrusive, distressing, and completely unwanted. What's worse, they leave you questioning yourself. Why did I think that? Does this mean something about me? Let's start with a truth that might bring some relief. You are not alone. Millions of people, regardless of background, culture, or personality, experience unwanted intrusive thoughts. Good, kind, and rational people can have shocking, bizarre, and even terrifying thoughts. The thoughts themselves don't define you. Your actions and values do. In fact, the very distress you feel about these thoughts is a testament to your character. The issue isn't that you have intrusive thoughts. It's how you respond to them. Intrusive thoughts can feel like an unwelcome guest that refuses to leave. They're uninvited, but persistent, leaving you stuck in a cycle of fear and frustration. Many of us react to these thoughts with resistance, telling ourselves, I shouldn't think this. But here's the paradox. The more you fight a thought, the more it digs in. It's like trying not to think about a pink elephant. As soon as you make the effort, it's all you can imagine. This ironic process of the mind explains why intrusive thoughts often feel so overwhelming. Imagine you're standing at a train platform and a thought flashes in your mind. I could push that person onto the tracks. Most people would brush off the thought, recognizing it as random and irrelevant. But if you're prone to intrusive thoughts, you might panic, thinking, why did I think that? Am I dangerous? This reaction, the worry, the fear, the self-judgment, gives the thought power, turning it into a mental loop that's hard to escape. So what can you do instead? The key lies in changing your relationship with these thoughts. Rather than seeing them as dangerous or meaningful, you can learn to view them as what they are: fleeting mental events with no inherent significance. It's not the thought itself, but your reaction to it that causes distress. By shifting your perspective, you can break the cycle and free yourself from the grip of unwanted thoughts. First, let's debunk a myth. Intrusive thoughts are not indicators of hidden desires or suppressed impulses. Just because you think something doesn't mean you want it or would ever act on it. In fact, intrusive thoughts often focus on what matters most to you, targeting your deepest values and fears. For instance, a gentle, caring person might be plagued by violent thoughts precisely because they're so abhorrent to their nature. This mismatch between the thought and your character is what makes it so distressing. Now consider this. Your mind generates thousands of thoughts every day. Most come and go without notice. Intrusive thoughts are just one type of thought, but they stick because we give them attention. When you label a thought as bad or dangerous, you're essentially inviting it to linger. The solution: learn to let the thought pass without engaging with it. It's like a cloud in the sky. You don't need to chase it or analyze it. You just let it drift. Let's talk about a strategy called mindful acceptance. When an intrusive thought arises, instead of reacting with fear or resistance, acknowledge it with curiosity and neutrality. Say to yourself, that's an interesting thought, and then move on. This approach may feel counterintuitive at first, but it's incredibly effective. By refusing to engage in the mental tug-of-war, you deprive the thought of its power. Imagine your mind as a stage and your thoughts as actors. Intrusive thoughts might storm onto the stage, demanding attention. But you're not obligated to interact with them. You can watch from the audience, recognizing that they're just performers. Dramatic, perhaps, but ultimately harmless. Over time, As you practice this detachment, the intrusive thoughts lose their intensity and frequency. Another helpful tool is reframing. When an intrusive thought arises, remind yourself, this is just my brain being overprotective. Our brains are wired to detect and respond to potential threats, but they're not always accurate. Sometimes they sound the alarm unnecessarily. By seeing intrusive thoughts as a glitch in the system rather than a reflection of reality, you can reduce their emotional impact. Of course, it's not just about managing thoughts in the moment. Long-term recovery involves understanding the patterns and triggers that contribute to intrusive thoughts. Stress, fatigue, and anxiety can all make your mind more sticky, increasing the likelihood of intrusive thoughts. By taking care of your mental and physical health through practices like exercise, sleep, and mindfulness, you can create a more resilient mind. It's also important to challenge the belief that you need certainty to feel safe. Many people with intrusive thoughts get stuck in a cycle of seeking reassurance, whether from themselves or others. But certainty is an illusion. Life is inherently uncertain, and learning to tolerate that uncertainty is a crucial step toward freedom. Instead of asking, how can I be sure I won't act on this thought? Ask, can I accept the uncertainty and trust myself anyway? Recovery isn't about eliminating intrusive thoughts. That's impossible. It's about changing your response to them. When you stop seeing them as a threat, they lose their power. Over time, they become background noise, barely noticeable amidst the richness of your life. And isn't that what you deserve? A life where your thoughts don't dictate your happiness or self-worth. Let's take a moment to reflect on the nature of thoughts themselves. Thoughts are transient, much like leaves floating down a stream. They come and go, shaped by countless factors: your environment, mood, memories, and even random neural firings. Some thoughts are mundane, like planning dinner, while others are bizarre, even unsettling. But here's the thing. They're all equally temporary. No thought has the power to define you unless you give it that authority. Think about it this way. If your mind is a radio station, intrusive thoughts are the static between channels. They're not the main broadcast, they're just noise. Instead of focusing on the static, you can tune into the station you want to listen to, the thoughts that align with your values and aspirations. This doesn't mean you ignore intrusive thoughts. It means you don't let them dominate your mental landscape. Building resilience against intrusive thoughts also involves fostering self-compassion. It's easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism, blaming yourself for having these thoughts or believing they reflect some moral failing. But self-compassion offers a kinder, more effective path forward. When an intrusive thought arises, instead of berating yourself, try saying, "It's okay to have this thought. It doesn't mean anything about me." Treat yourself with the same understanding and patience you would offer a close friend. Consider the role of curiosity in reframing your relationship with intrusive thoughts. Curiosity is a powerful antidote to fear. When a thought arises, instead of reacting with dread, approach it with gentle interest. Ask yourself, what does this thought feel like in my body? How does it shift over time? By observing the thought without judgment, you create space between yourself and the thought, reducing its emotional charge. Let's not forget the importance of connection. Intrusive thoughts thrive in isolation, feeding on secrecy and shame. Sharing your experiences with trusted friends, family, or a therapist can be incredibly liberating. You'll likely discover that many people have faced similar challenges and that you're not as alone as you might feel. Connection reminds us of our shared humanity and helps dissolve the stigma surrounding intrusive thoughts. Another valuable practice is grounding yourself in the present moment. Intrusive thoughts often pull us into hypothetical scenarios, creating a sense of danger that feels immediate but isn't real. Techniques like deep breathing, mindfulness meditation, or simply focusing on your senses can anchor you in the here and now. When you're grounded, it's easier to see intrusive thoughts for what they are. Just thoughts, not threats. As you navigate this journey, remember that progress isn't linear. There will be days when intrusive thoughts feel overwhelming and days when they barely register. Both are part of the process. Celebrate small victories, like recognizing an intrusive thought without reacting to it or going a whole day without ruminating. These moments of progress, however small, are stepping stones toward lasting change. In closing, let's revisit the idea that thoughts are just thoughts. They're not commands, predictions, or reflections of who you are. They're fleeting, inconsequential, and often absurd. By learning to treat them with curiosity and compassion, rather than fear and judgment, you can break free from their grip. You have the strength to face your thoughts without being defined by them. And as you do, you'll discover a profound truth. Peace of mind isn't about controlling your thoughts. It's about embracing your ability to let them go. Your journey doesn't end here. It's just beginning. With each step, you're building a life that's not only free from the torment of intrusive thoughts, but also rich with purpose, connection, and joy. Remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the observer, the constant amidst the ebb and flow of your mental landscape. And in that constancy lies your power, your resilience, and your freedom.